So let's talk about a few of the tools that an ethical hacker would utilize in their testing scenarios. To be honest, there are hundreds of tools out there. What you see on the screen is just a few examples of them. Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. What is a vulnerability scanner? It is an automated tool that is designed to identify vulnerabilities within hosts, within operating systems, within networks. So they come with their ready-made databases of all the vulnerabilities that have already been identified, and they scan the network against that database to find out any possible flaws or any possible vulnerabilities that currently exist on the host or the operating system or on the network. Similarly, there would be application scanners like Acunetics or Arachne that would help you scan applications and identify flaws within those applications as well. Now, all of these are automated tools. The essence of an ethical hacker is when these tools churn out the reports, the ethical hacker can understand these reports, analyze them, identify the flaws, and then craft their own exploits or use existing exploits in a particular manner so that they can get access or they can bypass the access security controls mechanisms that are already in place. How can they do that? With the tool called Metasploit. You see that big M there on the right hand side? That M logo is for a tool called Metasploit, which is a penetration testing tool. What is a penetration testing tool? It is that tool that will allow an ethical hacker to craft their exploits or choose their exploits for the vulnerabilities that have been identified by Nessus. Since we are interacting with computers, we will always be interacting using tools, right? So the first tool, Nessus, identifies the flaws and the possible list of vulnerabilities. We do a penetration test using Metasploit to validate those flaws and to verify that those flaws actually exist and try to figure out the complexity of those flaws. And that's where Metasploit helps us do that. Wireshark would be used in the background while you are doing both the activities using Nessus or Metasploit to keep a track of what packets are being sent and received on the network, which would help us analyze those packets. So whenever I run a Nessus scanner, I would run a Wireshark in the background. It will capture the data packets and I can go through those data packets and analyze that data packets to identify what Nessus is actually trying to do. Similarly, when I try to attack a machine using exploit on Metasploit, I will keep on Wireshark running in the background to capture the data packets that have been sent and the responses that I've received from the victim so that I can also go through those packets and analyze the responses and analyze the attack, whether it was successful, to what extent was it successful, and basically will also give me a validation, a proof of the activity that has happened. Nmap is another automated tool that allows me to scan for open ports and protocols. So why would I use Nmap? Because ports and protocols become an entry point for a hacker to gain access to devices. For example, when we connect to a web server, we connect through a web browser, but we automatically connect to port 80 using HTTP and port 443 is using HTTPS. So if I'm connecting to a web server using HTTPS, it is safe to assume that port 443 on the web server is open to accept those connections. Similarly, there would be other services that may be left open on the web server because nobody thought about configuring it, or they misconfigured the web server and they left unwanted services running. So Nmap will allow me to scan those ports and services and allow me to understand what services are being offered on that server, so then I can start analyzing that server, identify those flaws within those services, and then try to attack them. If the application that I'm analyzing is connected to a database and I want to do a SQL injection attack, or if Nessus tells me that there is a SQL injection attack that may be possible on that particular application, I can use an automated tool called SQL map or SQL map that would allow me to automatically craft all the queries that are required for a SQL injection attack and help me do that attack at the same time. So here I do not have to manually create my own queries. The SQL map tool would automatically create them for me. What I would do is I would use Nessus to identify that particular flaw. If Nessus reports that flaw, I would then go use the tool SQL map, configure it to attack that particular web server, and when I fire off the tool, it will then automatically start directing queries, SQL injection queries, to the database to see if those databases are vulnerable, and if yes, what data can be retrieved from those databases. So all of these tools in a nutshell would help me hack networks, applications, operating systems, and host devices. And this is what the ethical hacker does. They use these kind of tool sets. They identify what attacks they need to do. They identify the right tool for that particular attack, and they write their exploits. They create those attacks, and then they start attacking, analyze the response, and then give a report to the management, providing them feedback about how the attack was created or crafted, what was the response to that attack, and whether the attack was successful or not. If successful, they would also give recommendations of what to do to prevent these attacks from happening in the future.